Hi, this is Coach Wilson, and I'm here for the FCA Sports Camp 2020 in Pueblo, Colorado. And welcome to everybody who is participating in the sports camp. And this is going to be an introduction and then a day one Bible study on the theme of the day. So let's get started with that. So our camp theme is entitled 100%. And the camp Bible verse is, "And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all of your soul, all of your mind, and all of your strength." And that's Mark 12:30. If maybe need to really contemplate that verse. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart and all of your mind, all of your soul, and all of your strength. Okay, that's a great verse to get us through the week in the camp and life. So day one, this is the Bible study for day one, and the title of that is 100% God, and we're talking about God's sacrifice. Okay, so before we start specifically talking about that, let's just kind of relate this to sports. I think we've all had coaches that have said things similar to, if not even these exact things. Don't leave anything out there. Give me 100%. I need more out of you. These are all types of things that you'll hear at practice, that you'll hear in a pregame speech or during the game or at halftime. These are all things that are important, is giving 100%. And by doing these things, it's not free. So you see, giving it all is not free. In order to give it all, it costs time, it costs sweat, it costs pain, and it costs tears sometimes. And this is all about hard work and sacrifice. And when you pay what it costs to do these things, to give 100%, you've invested in your goal. You've invested in trying to succeed in what you want to do. So when you pay what it costs, you've invested. And when you've invested time, sweat, pain, tears, and those are just a few things, I truly believe that it's harder to give up. You will not give up. So when you pay what it costs, you've invested. When you have invested, you will not give up. And people who have not invested give up easily. I've seen that over and over again throughout my years of coaching. And it's the players and it's the people who haven't invested anything into it, haven't invested time, haven't invested themselves, haven't invested any sweat, pain, or tears into the goal of, in this case, winning football games. Those are the people that seem to give up rather easily. And if you think about it, it only makes sense. If you put a lot of hard work and time and effort into something, you're not going to give up when something doesn't go your way. But if you don't have anything invested into it, any time, effort, whatever, and things don't go right, or you've had a couple of failures, then it's like, oh, well, this isn't worth it. Well, yeah, it's not worth it because you haven't invested anything. Okay? So a lot of times we've heard stories about some legendary players. And we've heard, and sometimes if you read into these and you research them and you look into how certain athletes became great, they'll talk about their training regimens. And see, that's the one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand, or they don't want to understand, or I think in some cases they don't want to understand. Um, but that's another story. Um, but see, a lot of times when we look at these, famous athletes and greats such as Michael Jordan and Peyton Manning um, and Walter Payton. Walter Payton, in my opinion, was the best football player that I've ever seen. He was a running back for the Chicago Bears, but he was a football player. Um, but we've heard about Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice, at one time, I haven't checked lately, but at one time he held almost every single receiving NFL record that there was. But anyway, my point being is that people don't want to talk about the hard work that these people put in to become great. They think that they became great just because they're talented. Well, I might argue that there's been a lot of Michael Jordans in this earth that's ever been born. A lot of Michael Jordans and when I say that, a lot of Michael Jordans that have had that ability, physical ability, or even some people might have even had more physical ability than Michael Jordan. But people don't understand of all the hard work and sacrifice that Michael Jordan put in to become great. Um, Peyton Manning is legendary for his preparation and for games, and Walter Payton is famous for his workout of running through sand, and Jerry Rice, famous for running up a mountain every single day during his off-season training, and other things about Jerry Rice that you should look into some of the training that these people did. Um, Kobe Bryant, who has just recently passed away. So his off-season training, I just did some kind of looked up some things because I'd heard about how hard Kobe Bryant trained. His off-season training. This is so during not basketball season. 2 hours of running, 2 hours of basketball, and 2 hours of weight training every day. Notice, and this is kind of weird, um, out of the 6 hours a day that he trained, only two of them was basketball. Wow, that's weird. You mean running and lifting weights is important? Yes, they are important. And that's another thing that irks me. Um, and I don't care what sports you're in, whether it's cheerleading, basketball, baseball, whatever, you've got to train. And that training consists of weight training and running and doing those things. You're not just going to become great at something just by playing if you want to be a great basketball player, you just can't play basketball. You can't just play baseball. You have to do other things. But see, people know that deep down inside, they know that, but they don't want to willing to put in the sacrifice for it because they don't want to pay what it costs. But anyway, Kobe Bryant. So this is per day, 2 hours of running, 2 hours of basketball, 2 hours of weight training. And he did that 6 hours a day for 6 days per week for 6 months during the off season. So imagine for 6 months that he was not playing basketball, 6 hours a day, 6 days per week for 6 months. And during his shoot arounds, and I imagine this is maybe during his 2 hours of basketball, 400 made shots. Not 400. He didn't shoot 400 shots. He made 400 shots, and he actually counted them. There's a story about when he was in high school that he would challenge his teammates to a one-on-one basketball. Now, a lot of times you'll hear one-on-one basketball. Hey, let's go one-on-one and let's go to 10 or one-on-one to 20. I've heard those things, but no, Kobe Bryant would challenge people and say, let's go one-on-one to 100. And they said in an article that I read is that he would beat his teammates, the ones that would actually play him. He would have a bad game if he won 100 to 12. That's when he had a bad day. because of their training, they were fierce. Oh, I want to talk about Jerry Rice for a second. This just goes back to, we're talking about talent. Jerry Rice was not fast. So here we're talking about um, the greatest receiver in the history of the NFL was not fast. And in fact, they said he timed at 4.7. Well, 4.740 and a 4.740, there's some linemen that'll run a 4.740. But Jerry Rice ran a 4.7. But here's the thing about his 4.7. He ran a 4.7 on the first play. He could run a 4.7 on the first play of the game, and he could also run a 4.7 on the last play of the game through playing 4 quarters, because he was such in good shape. And so he wasn't fast, but he became good at other things. He got to be the best at catching the ball. He got best as, if there was a one-on-one, a ball that went up in the air, because of his weight training. There we go, weight training again. Because of he was stronger than defensive backs. He would come down with the ball if it come down to it. Anyway, you could look into those things. Because of their sacrifice, these athletes became great. Because of their sacrifice, these athletes were fierce competitors and would never give up in a game. Okay? Fierce competitors never give up. They became great. Well, let's get to our daily verse here today. So remember, our theme is 100% God, sacrifice. Our verse for the day: for this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:16. For this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life. So imagine this: God sacrificing his Son. You know, we can go back and talk about the sacrificing of time and the sacrificing of a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears, or sacrificing some sleep to become great, which are all things that you need to do as a human being. But this is what God did. God sacrificed his Son. And when I say sacrificed, Jesus died. To me, this is sacrifice. This is greatness. And this is a promise to never give up on you. Notice how we talked about when you sacrifice, you can never give up. Well, God's sacrifice was so great that he's never going to give up on you. To me, this is love. God sacrificed his Son and will not give up on you. These are just a couple of verses that talk about how God will not give up on you, and God seeks you and wants you. I will seek the lost, bring back the scattered, bind up the broken, and strengthen the sick. Ezekiel 34:16. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. Notice in both of these verses, he is seeking you. He is seeking you because he loves you, and he sacrificed his Son for you. And what do we mean by that? He sacrificed his Son for us. Well, see, this is the main point that you have to understand. So please understand that this sacrifice was for you. With this sacrifice, you can now be with God in heaven forever. With this sacrifice, you can now be with God in heaven forever. But you have to choose that. You have to believe that. You have to know that he sacrificed his Son so that you could have eternal life. To me, that is love. So the main point out of this is that God gave 100% by sacrificing his son. I want to thank you for this time, and this was awesome. Thank you.